3 billionaires came out of nowhere supporting Trump, okay? So first of all, Home Depot founder Bernie Marcus issues battle cry to GOP, unite behind Trump. Billionaire John Paulson to hold megadonor fundraiser for Donald Trump, okay? Nelson Peltz, from the guy that's trying to get a board seat on Disney, or he has one, or something's going on. He's a very powerful guy, to vote for Donald Trump over fears of Joe Biden's mental condition. Back to back to back. I think all these announcements were on the same exact day. Do you think this is going to be a trend of more people, Tom, coming out publicly supporting Trump against Biden?
Absolutely. I think what's happening now is the primaries are over, and the primary is a time where we can come together with a variety of candidates, such as DeSantis put himself out there, ran a campaign. Nikki Haley ran a campaign. A lot of people ran a campaign. Doug ran a campaign, you know, the guy that we met out there, you know.
Doug with the big eyebrows. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And who, you know, was up there campaigning, even though he had, I guess, did an ACL or something. He got really hurt. But all that time of inspection is done. Life is about to get effing serious, and so people are coming out. We're come to the election. We know who the two guys are. No, Trump didn't get held back or use these legal techniques to disqualify him. He wasn't held back. He's still here. That was part of the calculus that was in the Haley camp. Absolutely, it was a little piece of the calculus that was in the DeSantis camp, to be fair, that, hey, he may not even make it there. And so now they're coming out. Bernie Marcus is out. John Paulson's out. Nelson Peltz is out. And they're all out. And I think you're going to see more of this PBD. As the election gets closer, it's getting real. People are looking at what really matters. They're looking at who the real candidates are. And they're voting with their wallets because it's time for them to stand up and take a stand.
And guess what? Their attitude, we talked about this earlier. You know what Bernie Marcus, John Paulson, and Nelson Peltz have in common? They're all Jewish. And they're all like, let's fucking go. You guys want to have an attitude? You want Chuck Schumer to go over there and talk shit about Israel? Guess what? Now the money. You talked about the vote, Dave. Now, guess what? The money's going for Trump.
So I don't know. I know Marcus from Home Depot. I don't know this Nelson Peltz guy. But the point on the mental condition, I mean, does anyone at this table believe that Joe Biden is running the country? Do you believe that the ideas that come out of this administration and the final calls, a man who not only fumbles everything he says and can't read a teleprompter and slurs literally every single sentence that he says, and yes, they can pump him up with some stuff and get him to be semi-functional at certain hours of the day. Do you think he's actually the same guy who also often at the end of press conferences says, oh, I'm not supposed to say that, or I'm going to get in trouble if I say that? Yeah. Does anyone here honestly believe yes, I believe he is the president, meaning his name is on the desk. Yeah. But does anyone actually believe that what is happening with this country is being driven by a cogent Joe Biden?
Absolutely not.
And I don't think there's I don't even think you can get. I would recommend go try to get 5 Democrats, legit Democrats, that will honestly put their name to that, and you barely can find anybody.
Can I give you a scary answer?
You could talk about that, but I mean, that's not really the question. The question is what's going on with with these billionaires, and regardless of who's there, Dave, and I agree, I think there's a shadow behind him that's pulling the levers, but regardless of who's there, these guys don't want it, and they're all unifying there. It's it's time. It's time to vote. It's time to get serious. Time to take a side.
Well, the reason I mention it, though, is because I think if he wasn't so obviously broken down, if he wasn't so obviously not Joe Biden of 20 years ago, I don't know that everyone would get there. I think people are like, oh, it's not just that the policies are freaking horrible and the border is open and Bidenomics makes no sense and everything else. It's also that he gets up there and there's no confidence. You watch him. I'm sure all of you guys have had relatives with dementia. My grandmother had it, and when I was doing stand-up in New York, my days were a little free because I was working at night. So I would take her to the elder care doctors and the geriatric doctors. His behavior is exactly the same. And you know that thing when they start talking and you're just waiting for them to get to the end of the sentence, and you're just praying that they get there because you don't want to have to, oh, grandma, you know, you lost it, or blah, blah, blah. It's like we're all doing that with this guy and pretending that we're not doing it. And the media is running cover. You saw that Chuck Scarborough clip where he said he's sharper than ever. Yeah, it's like, what do they have on you, dude? Yeah. What do they have on you?
And they're chanting 4 more years.
Yeah.
4 more. Well, I'll give you something even scarier, because I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with you that basically saying there's no way he's running this country. That's crazy. He's probably got a team of handlers. number one, we learned during the State of the Union address, when you set the bar so low that he can't even tie his shoes, he can't tie 2 sentences together, when he gets out there and basically yells at everybody for an hour and a half, it sort of lessens the argument that he's not capable of doing that. But here's what I'll give you, because we were all sitting there at lunch. I won't say the name. We were sitting there at lunch, and he said, you want to know what's even scarier? I'm one phone call away from the guy that's basically running the show within the Biden administration. The scariest thing is that it's actually him making the decision. So you would think otherwise. There's other people making decisions. He basically made this a very credible source here. You were there. Basically said, no. It's actually him making the decisions. That might be even scarier.
That actually is even scarier. But this thing where he gets to the end of these press conferences and he says, "Oh, if I say that, I'm in trouble."
They told me no.
Pat, your name's all over this place. You're in charge of this operation. If you were to flub something during the show, do you get in trouble with somebody? Do they take you out back and hit you over the head with a shovel? Or are you actually in charge of this place?
I mean, you can see the big teleprompter in front of me in the big font. I have to read that.
Yeah.
They don't type that up there. I don't.
Exactly.
I have to follow
we have
the
to give
rules.
you names of the Irish people that to remember the names, remember to thank people.
He's my English tutor on this side.
Yeah. Amid these certain problems. For years, I've been working on this.
And Dave, going off what you said, the fact that, and I'm 100% agree with you, no doubt, when he says the they and the them and I can't and they, and that's why I think they all had to go after Trump, because that Trump didn't need did Trump ever go, hey guys, I got to get off the stage for 2 hours because they told me I got to get off? Right. Never. It's him.
Look, how many of you have had dogs that have passed away while you've had the dog, right? Most people have been through that. At the end, you can do an awful lot of stuff to keep that animal alive.
Yeah.
And you can drug them with all sorts of stuff. And we did that with my dog, who was 16 years old. And basically they said to us, the vet said, you can give her these medications, but basically it'll extend it a little bit. And then at some point, her insides are just going to explode. Like the organs will literally. And it seems to me they are juicing him to get him out there and be functional. And they are just praying it gets to November 5th. They are just praying, because they have contingency plans, obviously, right? I mean, they're not running Kamala, obviously. The Gavin thing, you may say the whole DeSantis thing was a disaster, but if DeSantis did one good thing in the entire campaign, he basically destroyed Gavin Newsom. We don't hear about Gavin anymore because that debate was so absolutely a win for DeSantis. But that there are plans for, he could break a hip while we are doing this show right now. Most people fall down the stairs. He seems to fall upstairs. Like that could happen right now. Anything could happen.
Dave, here's where I'm going to disagree with you, man.
We're one flight of stairs.
Here's where I'm going to disagree
Harris.
with my friend Dave. You're talking about the DeSantis-Newsom debate.
Yeah.
From a policy standpoint, it was not even a question that DeSantis won. But if you poll the general people that don't know shit about policy, they're going to take a look at slick back hair Newsom and think that he won. I mean,
we haven't heard much of him since then.
Oh, what do you mean? He's been doing interview after interview. He's out there. I'm not going to.
It's old story. I don't want to do the Newsom.
But I'll say this about Biden.
Yeah.
We're using the pronouns things. They, them, they, them. If they and them actually had that much control, he wouldn't be running again. Meaning, unfortunately or fortunately, he's running because he made the decision as a sitting president of the United States, I'm running again. So if there was people, the coddlers, the handlers, that were really argument. In control, he would have been dismissed.
Well, I think it's partly because they made a deal with the devil by bringing Kamala on, who was basically polling at 0 at that point. Yes. So they made a deal with the devil. Okay, we're going to get Biden to be president and pray that it gets that far. And Biden, one of the other things is when you're in cognitive decline, you don't know it necessarily. So he may not be fully aware. So I'm not saying he didn't make the decision. I believe that I assume there's a document they have to sign saying they're running again or file.
Blood oath.
Whatever they have to do, eat a child, whatever. I'm not saying he didn't do that. I'm not saying he didn't do that. But the idea that he's the driving force behind the ideas of the administration. And I think in many ways, he's a perfect avatar for what America has become. We're confused. We don't know what we are. We don't stand for anything. And
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party.
Tulsi Gabbard says she is no longer a Democrat. A potential Tulsi Gabbard VP.
Where we are being told that we just have to comply and go along with whatever they say. American people are smarter than this. However, we must remain vigilant to recognize their propaganda for what it is, pure lie. Unfortunately, we live in a time where free speech is under attack. Whatever they say goes, and we have to just follow. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology. this on a debate stage before. I would look forward to doing that again.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.